Hello, it's me, Heart Warrior. Um, Grandma's opinion. But right now, this video today is directed at San Diego. Santiago. Um, he had shared how he found his way home. He had been raised outside of his culture, and uh, his story was very exciting to me because I had never heard anyone else talk about that before. And I'm sure there's many people that have had that experience. But I told, he asked me to share my experience of a similar nature. And it's a long story, too long for a video here. Um, let's just say that from my early childhood till 7, we were in the inner city in the winters, and in the summers we were in the Boundary Waters canoe area, which wasn't the Boundary Waters canoe area yet. It didn't turn into that until I was about 11. So then I went to boarding school for 4 years, around the clock, summer and winter, um, for 4 years. And they were trying to take the Indian out of us and make us into white people, I guess, Christians. Well, I never bought into it. From my earliest memory, right after I was born, laying in the hospital, I can remember that. And I can remember my mother crying. She was in a different place from me. She was in the bed, and I was in a bassinet or something on the side of the wall. And I remember seeing the long, tall window, and I remember hearing her crying. It was like a steady beat, like water on the shoreline. And it was soft. And I didn't identify with it because I don't think the child bonds until the mother picks it up and breastfeeds it and establishes a relationship. So I didn't identify with it at all. I was only listening to it. And then after boarding school, we moved into the pink suburbia, one of the earliest suburbs outside of the Twin Cities. And I was in culture shock. I was in culture shock because where did all the Indians go? There were no Indians around there. And it caused me to have a really bad attitude, they would say. I was always being told I had a bad attitude. And when I was in boarding school, I never bought into Christianity either. And that's mainly because as an infant, my grandmother played with me and showed me our clan sign over and over. And when I got to be about 3, I asked my mother where she was. What happened to that woman that used to come and hold me and rock me and show me our clan sign? My mother just stared at me and said that was my grandmother, but my grandmother had been dead 12 years before I was born. But when you're an infant, you play with whoever's there. You know, if they come and they relate to you, and you relate to them. And so you don't know the difference between the spirit world and the physical world. At least I didn't. I just thought she was a regular. Well, anyway, person. Which she was. She was just from the spirit world. And so I always had a strong bond to who I was from the get-go. And then when I was 6, I was playing outside, and I was suddenly brought into my heart center and realized that it was my connection to the Great Spirit in all things. And that if I was true to my heart, I could never get lost because I would be in harmony with the Great Spirit. So when my heart felt good, I knew I was in harmony. When my heart felt bad, I knew that I fell out of harmony and I better get back on the trail. And so we would call that, then I vowed to that. And so I entered the medicine wheel teachings. I entered into those teachings. And I can give the medicine wheel teachings because I've walked it and practiced it since I was 6 years old. I was born knowing it. Well, anyway, to make a long story short, I went to college and I had a feeling that if I went to art school, it would be a key that would open a door. I wasn't in college to go on and make lots of money and make a living and all these practical things that people do. I was in college because it would open the door for me. it would be a key, which it turned out to be. I went to college, and after college, I was offered a lot of stuff. I was offered uh, scholarships to go on into law school. Um, I even hitchhiked over to Chicago and sat in on a law class to see what it was like. And but then I decided that the system was too corrupt, and I wasn't going to be bashing my head against the wall for nothing. We'd have to deal with a corrupt system, so it wasn't worth it to me. And then I was offered money to go into social work, and I was offered my own TV program, uh, and I was offered to paint for Disney. Paint. I had gone to art school, and I was offered to paint cartoon pictures. And anyway, so I turned it all down because I went on a search to find out where I belong. Everything in the city I knew wasn't me. That's not who I am. But who am I, you know? Because you get confused. You're not around your people. You're not showing anything. And I had visions too when I was 16, when I was 17. I had visions, but I didn't know they were visions. I thought they were my wild imagination. Only later on, when they worked themselves out, did I realize I had had visions and I had been foretold these things. And anyhow, so that set me, so I went on a search. And that in itself is a big, long story. But let's just say that and then I also withdrew it back into the Boundary Waters, and I did the Sweat Lodge all summer in 1973, every day, and prayed. And, and then I went on excursions around the country, meeting elders, and I recovered who I am. And then I realized that I knew it all along, that I had lost that connection to my heart center, and now I reclaimed it from when I was 6 years old. And anyway, but to make a long story short, I made a coloring book for kids that kind of tells the same story that we have been through. Santiago, me, and who knows how many other Native people. One of the people I met on the trail, though, was Grandfather David. He was about 140. And he told me, he said, you know, the leadership clans will always know who they are and where they come from. You cannot, you can put them in a closet and they'll know who they are. And so I would say Santiago must be from leadership clans, because we will always find who we are. We cannot be confused by everything around us, which they have tried to do to us, but we know who we are. And so I made a coloring book for kids to illustrate this, and it's called, and I'm just unfolding it right now, it's called the eagle hatched in a chicken coop. And so I was just going to I'm taking the wrapping off of it right here, and there's two books in here, book 1 and 2, and so I'll try to give you the gist of this. Now this is a story that other Indians have told, the eagle hatch in a chicken coop, but they have their own take on it. Everybody has their own take on what that means, and you know, it's kind of like a joke or something. So this is mine anyway, and I'm going to share it with you. The Eagle Hatched in a Chicken Coop by Heart Warrior Chosa. It's a read, and it's a color book. And so this is kind of what we've been through. It says, eagle flies closest to the sun. They bring the messages to the spirit in all things. Therefore, they are king of bird clans. There you can see him in the writing stuff there. And so there's pictures with all of this. Eagles are lone wolves. They never seek after their own kind and live in high solitary places. They see further than any other creature. This ability to see far symbolizes the greater understanding of those native Indians born into the Eagle clan, and is the reason chiefs come from this clan. So it's one of the 4 hereditary chieftain clans that grandfather David told me about, which with them in Arizona is Sun Clan, Eagle Clan, the Kachina, and Bear Clan. And I'm sure the Thunderbirds figure in there, since they're the closest helpers to the Creator. The eagle sees ahead and can spot danger for his brother, the mouse. The mouse knows only what his whiskers touch. He needs eagle's guidance. Eagle's ability is called ESP by some people. So he can have ESP abilities too. There's the eagle. See, he sees the fire and it's going to warn the mouse. And back in the old days, our people always knew to listen to the leadership clans because of their gifts, and their gifts were meant to help the people. But nowadays, people don't recognize that anymore, and they don't go by that anymore. So that's their loss, you know. So here starts the story now of the eagle hatch in a chicken coop. And here's Mother Eagle sitting up in her nest. One late winter not long ago, there was a mother eagle sitting upon her egg. It was early dawn, still dark, but light enough to see. Mother Eagle's tummy grumbled. Soon she spotted a fish near the water's top and flew for it like an arrow. Eagles never miss their mark. With the fish held tightly in her talons, she flew to a nearby cliff to eat her breakfast. She did this every morning so quickly that her egg remained warm until her return to the nest. So you see that she gets back there pretty fast with food. Mother Eagle's worst enemy, Woods the Owl, had been waiting in the bushes. And there's Woods the Owl, let me see. Knowing Mother Eagle's habits, he swooped down and stole her egg for his own breakfast. He called it supper because the twilight of dawn meant bedtime to him. And so he says, wow, and he gets that egg. So Woods the Owl got the egg. And as he's flying home, he spots the luckless chicken out catching worms, an early bird. And he goes, big wow! And Woods the Owl drops Mother Eagle's egg and attacks the larger meat. And so the egg rolls down the hill and lands in front of Henrietta, the barren hen. So the egg rolls down the hill, lands in front of Henrietta, the barren egg. And this egg was her answered prayers, that she was so happy. Henrietta sat on her egg every moment she could. Soon she heard pecking within. The eaglet was hatched and the baby chick was almost as big as Henrietta. I'll show you these first pictures. Here's her sitting on her nest. And the eagle hatches and it's almost as big as her. She had to work as hard as other hens with a dozen chicks to feed. She named him Fallen Star to indicate he was a gift from the spirit in all things. Many moons later, and here's Henrietta clucking at Falling Star. Henrietta said to Fallen Star, the others are talking about you. Why do you not peck for seeds and worms? Soon you must choose a wife. The farmer wants lots of eggs this year, or he will eat us. Cluck, 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 cluck. Try as he might, Fallen Star could not become interested in chicken coop life. Fallen Star became more and more unhappy as he grew bigger and bigger. He was not content to peck for seeds on the ground, and he preferred to sit alone on top of the chicken coop. The sky and sun fascinated him. Fallen Star could see that he was not like the others. He flew toward the sun like a moth to flame. Henrietta and the others waited anxiously. Never has one of our kind gone so high, said the oldest rooster. While Fallen Star was with the sun, he understood who he was. Far below, he saw his true mother sitting in her empty nest. He saw her fish and knew that was the life for him. His heart cried, "Let freedom ring!" Fallen Star generously returned to the chicken coop and told the others all he had seen and who he really was. And that's him returning to the others to tell them what he found. Our lives are very different, even though we are all birds. You cannot be like me, nor can I be like you. But should you ever need me, I will help. After hugging Henrietta, Fallen Star flew back to his natural home and way of life. And then it says, the end, or is it the beginning? Then my second book is much more detailed. It's much more of a story. And it's the continuing story of what happens what happens when he's gone and what he discovers and warnings that he issues, prophecies to the chickens, and so it's another book, and it's the continuing story, and so it's more of a storybook, and so but that gets you the gist of what we're talking about, and so I thought I'd share this with you, and maybe in another video I'll read the second book. Okay, thank you. So you can see what happened.